When you cover a category of one particular item, at some point you kind of have to take stock and see where you are. And that's exactly what we're doing today. Today we're going to do a small little tier list. Basically, I'm going to talk about knives under $30, or at least under $30 consistently. And we're going to put them into three different categories. The best knives that you can get at the moment, whether it's a staple, something that's always going to be consistently decent, or at least it's a passable knife that I would maybe recommend in a specific context. Okay, so we're talking very much about budget knives. So value is really important. So price is going to be a consideration, materials are going to be a consideration, availability, as well as just overall fit and finish. Okay, so we're actually going to kick this off with a knife that went relatively viral recently, and that is going to be the Ozark Trail. Well, it doesn't have a specific name, but I'm going to call it the, what did we decide we were going to call this thing? It was the Dropout. I like the combination of the drop bear, bug out thing. Anyway, it's a crossbar lock knife in D2 with a hollow grind that you can get for a $10 price tag at Walmart. Now you can literally walk into a store and pick up a knife with this kind of action for around $10. Now there's been a lot of videos on this knife lately, and I've been watching actually a bunch of them. I found a bunch of new content creators because of it, and it's been a lot of fun. This knife is not perfect, not by any stretch of imagination, and God forbid it is, because if it was perfect, then why are we even talking about the rest of this? Because a $10 knife that you can go in and buy at a Walmart anywhere in the US that is always consistently good with no issues, and then lasts on top of it with a perfect heat treatment and everything else, I mean, that would make a big impact on the market, maybe even shrinking the market dramatically on what should and should not be available. There's a reason why there are knives in the $30 and $50 range with similar materials that are just better overall than this knife. And I'm okay with that. As long as this exists for people to get into the hobby, to be able to experience something that does work pretty well, I think that's great. And so certainly we have to put this in the best at the moment. There's just very few things available that come anywhere close to the overall value that you're getting. D2 blade steel, contoured handles. No, it doesn't have reversible clips, so that's a negative, but still quite good. Now moving up from there, let's talk about this company called Ganzo. So Ganzo makes knives that you can pretty much only find on Amazon, AliExpress, and a bunch of other places. But it's been around for long enough, and they actually have a legit website and everything. I've even visited their stall at SHOT Show. This is a clone of a Spyderco Delica. Now this is in 440C. It has a really nice textured injection molded handle. It has pretty good action. And I have to say, for $16, I mean, it's really hard to beat. In fact, I give a bunch of these out to people in my life, and they find it so easy and so comfortable to use, two-handed or one-handed, that it's helped get them more used to the idea of carrying a knife. And when they want to upgrade to something like a Spyderco, those do appeal to them a lot more, because this is sort of like a conditioning thing. I absolutely love this. At $16 in 440C, it definitely goes into one of the best that you can get at that specific price. Now I'm going to run through these relatively quick. It's also worth noting that I am not going to adjust the order within the tiers, because I want people to know what's happening as we go along and be able to find that specific knife. I'll be putting information up as we go as well. So going along with Ganzo, that one is really good, but most of the knives from Ganzo are really good. My favorite of the bunch being right now this one, which is the G768 PT in D2, multiple deployments, absolutely fantastic action, crossbar lock, textured G10, a great deep carry pocket clip with a little insert for that pocket clip there. It's just a great knife, less than $30, or usually around 27, I think. And so, yeah, and I'm just gonna say in general, and this goes for most Ganzo knives, they're damn fine for the money. You're pretty much gonna be hard pressed to mess up going for a Ganzo knife. There are tons of them out there. I can almost always recommend them in this sub $30 category. All right, I think that's all for Ganzo. Let's move on to a company that very few people actually know about, and that's Olitans. So this is a $20 knife. It has excellent action, fit, and finish in G10 with a nice milling pattern, a decent enough clip. This knife is great and definitely has good lock bar access. But you believe it or not, for under $30, you can actually get a a frame lock version in D2 in titanium. So yeah, this one is really good. Now I think that titanium is stretching it. Like, that's not particularly important for under 30, but for under $20, this is actually in kind of a league of its own. It's a generic design. It's very comfortable. It's still enough space for a full 4-finger grip. And yeah, I would definitely say this is one of the better options you have. Now you'll notice that in this tier list, there is nothing that's not passable. So anything I'm showing you today is at least in that category, but there are always better options. Okay, that was Olitans. Let me talk about one more. Now, if we were rating like the top 5, if I was actually like reorganizing these, this would be probably number 1 in this category because it is consistently at a sub $30 price. Its fit and finish is surprisingly good. It has sort of a textured G10, 14C28N, which is a rare occurrence in this sub $30 category, a compound grind, and multiple deployments on bearings. This is the Monikala Assault Team. It is my favorite sub $30 knife. It has additional variations in true carbon fiber handles as well as titanium frame lock. That is only $43. So this is one of my absolute favorites. It is going to be a hard one to beat. I'll be honest with you. This is a very, very hard knife to beat. And if I was going to pick just one under 30, I think this kind of covers me because it has the sliciness and still has the stout tip on top of it. Very, very, very good. All right, switching to something that you can buy at a store. This is a knife from Dewalt that they've started carrying in Home Depot, and it's passable. It has been discovered that the steel for this is 440A, which is perfectly passable and better than most of the junk steels that you'll get, like the 3 and the 5CR from some other brands that just call stainless. I really wish they would actually declare on the box what stainless steel this is, but from what we can tell, it is 440A. The action on mine is pretty decent. It does have a 2-position clip if you like that, and still only right-hand carry. It's passable. There's so many better options, but for $15, it definitely kind of gets there. We can leave that right there. Okay, we'll go to the next knife, which is the only USA-made knife that we have under 30 that I think is even worth considering. Now, Buck makes the Bantam as well in a couple of variations. I hate that knife. I think that knife is absolute and utter garbage. Just terrible, 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 terrible knife. But the 112 Slim Select has a very nice grip. It's nice and slim, hence the name. It has a passable clip, which is reversible. It is a universal right or left hand carry, and it has a Boss heat treated 420 HC blade. Very, very nice, really indicative, and you can regularly find these for just under 30 bucks. They tend to hover a little bit above that when it comes to Amazon, but if you shop around, you can certainly find it for under 30 on a regular basis. It's either going to be in the black, it might be in the green, or the orange. All right, another one that is quite popular is the K-Bar Dozier. Now, this has aged pretty well. When you think about when this knife first came out, it was miles ahead of any other budget knife available. And they used to be like $20. Now they're just hovering slightly over that, between 23 and 27. Love the texture on this. It is a ambidextrous pocket clip. This one actually can be closed one-handed pretty easily, and the thumb stud can be flipped around. I think this is a fantastic knife. Now, I'll say it is a little outdated. It does come in D2, but that is going to push the price up to around the $40 price. But still, even now, even though this has been around for so long, it is an easy recommendation that you'll definitely enjoy. So put it in that staple category. Let me move things down a little bit. So definitely a staple. Not going to be the best knife ever, but never a bad choice, for sure. Never a bad choice. Let me lay all these down so we know what we're looking at here. We have enough space, I believe. All right, so next up, let's talk about some traditionals. A lot of people love these Opinels. Now, I'm not one of them, but I will tell you, at least in the carbon, there's a couple of things about it that I really, really like. Number one, it comes with a seriously sharp 90-degree spine. It's a very thin blade stock and a very, very comfortable handle. So if you just want to whittle and you want to enjoy yourself, you can use this. I'm not a huge fan of this locking mechanism. I've had it fail on me twice, and I'm not talking about batoning. I'm just talking about just sliding undone. I'm not a huge fan of it, even though it is traditional. But yeah, it is definitely a passable knife, specifically in carbon. Any of the variations, this is the number 8, the most popular one, but definitely you can get away with it. And regularly be found under $20, although the price seems to be increasing without any improvements to the knife itself. Now, speaking of traditionals, the knife I would pick every single time over the Opinel is going to be the Svord Peasant knife. Now, the ones that are a little bit cheaper are in the plastic, which is an injection molded plastic, and these knives are stupidly comfortable. And even though they're friction folders, as long as you're gripping the knife, there really is nowhere for that blade to go. And they are super fun to use and very fun to use in the outdoors as well. I love these knives. They're not going to be the highest tier when it comes to materials or just, I don't know. They're a staple. There's no question it's a staple, but you can't really bring it up to the best because the materials are still very generic. We live in a time when carbon steels are no longer the top dog. Stainless steels have improved so much over time, they can just outshine them in every possible capacity with the exception of striking flint on the back. But that's not really for most people anyway. Still, I gotta tell you, Svord Peasant knives, absolutely worth picking one up if you've never tried it. They are super fun to play with and just a really cool knife coming out of New Zealand. All right, so I'm not sure if we should be talking about this knife anymore, mostly because I think that they have discontinued it, but it is a fantastic knife. HCR13 MOV, this is the SRM 9201. The texture on this I absolutely adore. The contouring, everything just works really, really well. On washers, and yet very, 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 very fluid. Reversible pocket clip, deep carry with a lanyard ring. It's great. It's a staple if you can find it at around that $20 price. New kid on the block. This is a Scrade Divergent. Now this is in AUS 8, and if this had come out like 5 or 6 years ago, this would have been all the rage. But there are so many good options under that $30 price with potentially better steel. Like if you compare it to something like the $10 knife from Ozark Trail, not only is this ground better, it's in a better steel than AUS 8 by a pretty strong margin when it comes to edge retention. And because it is such a thin profile, it also ends up being a lot slicier. Now, it's not a bad knife, but it's definitely not a knife that I would pick if I was given multiple choices. If I walk into a store and they have this knife, then I would be very excited because that's a very decent sub $30 knife. It's one of these two. I'm gonna put it in the passing grade for now, and it mostly comes down to the really crappy job they did on the grinding, and this is true for every one of these Scrades I've seen. If they had done a better job there, I think it could go up to the staple category, but yeah, that's where we are. Now, talking about oldies but goodies, this is the QSP Parrot. It has been around for a long time. It was one of the premier budget knives 3 or 4 years ago, and it has still maintained its status as a staple in the category. This does have a reversible clip. It comes in micarta for this particular variation. And I'm gonna say it still maintains best at the moment. Absolutely, no question. If I'm rating some of these others in that category, then a micarta handled knife with QSP's track record and quality control it absolutely falls there. So we're definitely going to put it up at the top. I would absolutely be willing to use that at any time. And to go along with it, we have the Penguin as well, which is a different shape, slightly different handle, but can still be found just at or around that $30 price. Unfortunately, this has gone up a lot over the last couple of years. And so we're starting to see this knife creep up in price, which I think is a big mistake for QSP when things are just getting better in the sub $30 category. So if you can find it under 30, it's excellent. The classic denim micarta is definitely the way to go with the plain finish. If you can find that one for less than 30, then it is definitely going to be a staple. Probably even one of the best that you can find. I actually like that it doesn't come on bearings because it's a much easier knife for people to pick up and use who aren't used to the high speed action that will come from some of the other designs. So, speaking of some of the other designs that have high speed actions, this is one of them. This would be number one if I was rating it for everyone. And the reason this is number one best knife under $30 is because you can buy it right now at Walmart. Its fit and finish for this price point is truly insane. It is Civivi in the sense that it has all of the warranties and everything that go along with it. Its grind is fantastic. It has a great forward choke-up position. It has incredible action, as we'd expect from Civivi. And it's in G10. Yeah, the Mini Praxis is a all-star in this category. There is no question. It is one of the top-selling knives on Amazon for very good reason, and could end up being one of the most sold knives I can imagine now that you can buy it for the same price at Walmart. That's just insane. So yeah, the Mini Praxis, definitely one of the best you can buy. Not even close. Not even close. Okay, let's talk about another brand here for a second. Miguron. So this is pretty much exclusively going to be found on Amazon, AliExpress, and a few other places. And I will tell you, this company nails it every single time. Their fit and finish, their materials, the value you get is just off the charts. Now this one has a fuller, something I wish that the Mini Praxis had. Given the choice, they are basically the same price. Very, very little difference. I would always pick the Miguron. I prefer the handle. I prefer the fact that it has that fuller for flicking it out. I like the coating on this more than I like the black wash because it's going to protect the D2, which doesn't have the highest amount of corrosion resistance. And the action is fantastic as well. It is also a reversible pocket clip, something that the Praxis does not have, the Mini Praxis. So yeah, easily one of the best in the moment, no question. Now I know we're filling up on this, but I generally only keep knives that are really, really good, so this is sort of like a rehash of many of those knives. Speaking of Miguron, we have this knife, and I will tell you, this one falls below the, I'll put it right here, I cannot remember the name of that knife. It just falls a little bit below this one, and simply for the fact that it doesn't have reversible clip, and the positioning of this cutout is just right where my finger wants to be. I like this knife though. It's still a staple. The quality control is still incredible. Jimping is excellent. All those things are good. It's just not as good as some of the other options available. But it is, without question, going to have the same quality control. It's just not the best in category. The availability of something like the Mini Praxis and just nailing it better with the cutouts, it just makes a big difference. One of the only knives, this is another one from Miguron, and I think it's called a Tacog, and it is one of the very few that you will find consistently under $30 in 14C28N. And this is actually a hollow ground blade, which has a really beefy, really thick handle, so really filling handle and very, very comfortable. It is a right hand only, but it has a front flipper and a thumb stud combo. So another great option. This one I believe might be on washers instead of bearings. I can't, maybe it is on bearings. It's hard to tell with this company. but does not have a reversible clip. It is a liner lock 14C28N, definitely one of the better ones out there for sure. I got to put it in the best at the moment, mostly because if you can find it under 30, it's a rare thing to find 14C28N also heat treated really well at that same price. All right, we're almost done here. And we'll finish up with a couple of really, really slick knives that most people won't even recognize. This is the Sitivien ST152. It is a huge knife, easily the biggest one on the table. What makes this knife so cool is, unlike so many others that are made by this company, there's just something about the combination that blows my mind. We have a near 4-inch blade, almost. I think it's 3.8 something. It is in K110, which is a version of D2 made by Bowler, and is, in my opinion, a higher quality steel. And because we know where it's from, we also know that once it's heat treated correctly, it's also going to perform a little bit better than your generic G2. So on bearings here, crazy good action. If you like big knives and you want something that is truly mind-boggling at under 30 bucks, this would be my pick. Just crazy. Now, it unfortunately does not have a reversible pocket clip. It does come in a bunch of different colors besides this brown, so you can definitely change things up in that way. But yeah, this is one of the best still at the moment, and I don't think there's a question about that. Even the plunge for the sharpening is good right here. Overall, they've done a great job with this particular knife. I can't say that's true about every knife they make, but this one definitely falls in one of the best knives at the moment. Okay, a couple more that are worth noting. I didn't talk much about these, mostly because this is a true clone of the Chris Reeves large Sebenza. Now, this is made by, well, it's OEM'd by Sanrenmu, and they also OEM for Boker, they OEM for Rake, they OEM for a lot of companies, and their fit and finish is truly excellent. This is in 12C27, which not quite as good as 14C, but very, very tough steel and a decent budget steel as well. The frame lock version I like a little bit less for a few reasons. It's pretty heavy, even though it is quite slim. And it also is a little bit too close for comfort to the actual Sebenza. But if you do have a Sebenza and you like a kick-around knife that has bearings instead of washers and a great action, maybe this is your thing. If you ever want to know what one feels like, this is pretty damn close to the real, and I've tried it myself. So actually pretty decent. I can definitely put this in the stable. But the G10 version of this knife, which is a liner lock, something that's different, I actually prefer this quite a bit more because it is a little thicker. And actually, I think this works out to be a very nice, just go to town kind of knife. It has a really decent thickness on the tip. It has a really comfortable handle. I really like the G10 version of this knife. It's certainly still only a staple, but my goodness, I can definitely vouch for this knife, especially at the $22 to $23 price that it tends to fall in. Okay, just a few more on the table, and then we're going to finish up for today. This is something that used to only cost $6. Unfortunately, I have not been able to find it for that price anymore. But this is, and I'm probably going to say it wrong, so please forgive me. Higonokami knife. Now, this is a knife that is actually produced in Japan by a lot of different knife makers that kind of work together, I believe. And it is a traditional knife that is a friction folder. And it is pretty much a utility knife, right? This is the Japanese style utility knife. It is a traditional knife. And if you can pick one up for an inexpensive price and you wanted to try something a little different, this one could be kind of fun. It's certainly a passable knife. It's something you could use. And because it's such a slim profile, it can actually fit in places that a lot of knives just simply can't. And so for that, it at least is worthy of the list itself. And then the last one on here is the Maileah. And this is in ARRPM 9. Actually, it's not the last one on the list. I'll get to that in just a second. But the fact that it has a spray form, not a powder metal, spray form 9CR, it's just under that $30 price, and very appealing to a lot of people. I think that this knife definitely is at least worth a note. Being one of the only small knives on the table and being in a great steel, it definitely makes it into the staple category. And there is one more knife. Of course, this one had to be included on the list, especially because it is consistently going to be found under $30 on Amazon. This is the Pyrite Lite. Now, I don't know if the bronzed finished version of this knife will be under 30, but there will be a version of this knife under 30 available pretty much every time you look. It is fantastic in the sense that it has the excellent AR RPM 9, which is, as I said, a spray form 9CR. The plunge lock that they use here, in my opinion, is one of the most stable and secure of all the plunge locks. In fact, I've seen more broken plungers than I have seen it slip out. So that's actually a good sign for the strength of the lock. It's not the strongest lock out there, but man, are these fidgety. Button locks definitely are pretty fun. So I think it's the only button lock, in fact, on the table under 30 that I have that I would recommend. I cannot say enough. This is definitely going to be a knife worth considering. It has flush screws, deep carry pocket clip that is reversible. It has a thumb stud. It can be reverse flicked if you're good at that kind of thing. It has a nice choke up position. I mean, it can't be anything else but a staple, right? I mean, inevitably it will. Now, the titanium handle version of this, I think this is also pretty good. But at the end of the day, the G10 version at basically $10 less, and actually maybe even a more comfortable action, is a little bit better in my opinion. So I'm going to show you this, and I will list it down below in the links, but I still think the G10 is the better variation of the knife. Now, there are other knives under $30 that I don't have in my collection that might be worth considering. I have a massive list of those knives that you can find down below. It's like my little master list. But if there's something you can't find there and you think I should be looking at, can you guys let me know down in the comments? I'm really curious to hear if there's a hidden gem out there I have yet to find. As always, thank you guys so much for your time, and we'll talk again soon.